Welcome back. I thought it would be a good time to give you guys an update. I'm almost done, well, with as far as I'm going to go for now anyway. This is about 13 hours of work cumulatively, and it's been a real pain. But most of it's done. Any of the remaining rubber wire is still pretty much either pliable or fairly pliable and in a very difficult to access place. One thing that I'm kind of going back and forth on is the second IF can here. This wire is flaking. I just don't feel like taking that off right now. It's not really hurting anything, and it's certainly enough to get me going. I don't want to, I've been having pretty decent luck with this, so a couple of problem areas I had were very time consuming was up at this junction up here. There it goes. Up here. With these caps all being shoved up, everything seems to want to be shoved up against the chassis. I mean, obviously that's for noise reduction. But one of the other things is that I was out of, I had ordered yellow wire, and I was almost out of the solid yellow wire. So I looked locally, and I went to 3 different places, and nobody had solid wire in yellow. I'm sorry, did I say yellow or red? I meant yellow. Well, anyway, I'm almost out of red too. Solid red, anyway. So I kind of wanted 20 gauge. Nobody had anything solid, larger than 24. And even with that, nobody had it in yellow. I could get purple, I could get pink, I could get all sorts of colors, but yellow was not any one of them. So I ended up with stranded. It was only 300 volt wire too, which is okay because there's really, aside from what comes out of the transformer, which you can't see, I guess. Aside from the transformer, nothing else seems to go above 245 volts. So, I wasn't even going to be that worried about it with 300 volts, but if it went over, as long as it wasn't up near 600. So, looking at the schematic, I don't see anything over 245 volts that's listed anyway. What else is going on? Anyway, so, most of the rewiring has been done. As I said, problem area again was here. Another problem area was over here. It's just everything was clustered in places. And another thing that kind of bugged me as I was going along, I was kind of preserving the colors that they used, but I'm just starting to wonder, if they just were grabbing wire. Because while I was doing the, while I was replacing the wires along in the, for the filaments, the filament comes out of the transformer here, the 6.3, goes up to here, and then, there's this yellow wire here, it goes up to here. Well, there was black wire that went to here, and then the yellow wire that went to here. And then, down to the pilot lamp, was black wire. And same thing, you go up here, and this filament wire goes up to here. Yep, just up there. And then you can't really see it, but it jumps from. So it jumps from here to here, and this one's black, and then this one is black from this to this filament. Oop, we can't see that far. So it switches to black to go to this filament, switches to black to go to this filament, And then from this filament of the 42 to the filament of the other 42, it was red. It was starting to drive me nuts. So anyway, at a certain point, I just decided to just keep using yellow, mostly because most of the wire in here was yellow. But the other problem was I needed something to prop this up, and it turned out to be the spool of black wire worked very well. So I ended up, like I said, switching to yellow. But in the beginning, at least, I started out following their colors. But you know, the only colors they ever seem to be really consistent with, and that I've noticed, is with the IF cans, and it's almost always blue, red, white, and green. And they follow that in here, blue, red, white, and green. But they don't necessarily do that in the first IF stage. They actually have 2 cloth ones and then red and green. Or actually, I think that's blue. That's another funny thing about the rubber wiring is, I'm sure you've noticed, but the blue fades to a dark green, and the green fades to an olive green. So, anyhow. So the only thing I actually have left to do, but my back is starting to bother me because of this uncomfortable IKEA chair I sit in for 4 hours at a time, is I have to do the Bakelite block. I hadn't gotten to it. I was gonna do it before I did the 2000 volt caps, the .003s, back for the 42 tubes, but they turned out to be such a pain in the butt to maneuver it back there because I really couldn't take off the output transformer, as it's just got 2 little bare wires coming out of it. And I didn't want to sit there. I have unraveled so many turns of wire in here that I just decided to just fit them in there. Anyway, it all worked out, and I didn't have to take the transformer out. I was afraid of breaking the wires anyway. And that also leads me to another thing, is a lot of this was time consuming because, of course, when I have to replace a component, it happens to be always the component that was the first one wrapped around the terminal. So I end up having to take off 5 other things on top of it, and I know that normally we don't necessarily have to do that, but because of the fact that you know, the wire was bad and multiple components were bad, it was just easier to melt the solder and unwrap everything and then rewrap it all back on with less than 5 turns. Some of these components were wrapped around, I mean, they just, I guess when they if they had excess space, they didn't bother to clip it, they just kept wrapping. So a lot of the resistors turned out to be more out of tolerance than I had. More resistors were out of tolerance than I had expected. I had ordered most of the resistors in here were either 4.7, 47K or 470K, and I ran myself out of 470K 1 waters, and I had a lot. And I even ran myself out of the 47K 1 waters. I realized that most of the resistors in here were half or a quarter watt, if even a half. But anyhow, so I ended up having to dig through, and I found a couple of like 1% half watts. Of course, those are 5-band, and anyway. So I'm a lot easier to read at a glance for the 4-band. I haven't graduated to 5-band yet. I haven't even memorized the chart either. But anyway, be that as it may. So the last things I have to do are the 2 safety caps in the Bakelite block, and I ended up replacing this component, which was number 19. It's a 2000 picofarad or microfarad, whatever, either or. The previous person had obviously replaced it since it's an Aero box, but the schematic did not specifically state it was a mica. I've run into these larger ones that aren't mica, and since the only way I could test it was, I had to clip it out anyway. Since it's on the switch, I wasn't going to start unraveling everything. Anyway, so I clipped it out, And since I had to clip it out anyway, I might as well just replace it. And it actually turned out to be good. It may actually be mica, it doesn't say. And I had such a hard time cracking open the last one, I'm not going to bother. But anyhow, so that's done. And like I said, I replaced all but a handful of the resistors. A lot of resistors were, you know, there were just, some of them were just at 20%, and many were well over 20%. And since I had to unravel everything anyway, I just went ahead and replaced them. I know that probably bothers some of the more purists, but I'm not going to be admiring the underneath of the chassis. I'm going to be listening to it. So I also spent a lot of time. There was a ton of bare wire in here, so I was very careful. This is what took most of the time, was you know, measuring out and plotting out the spaghetti tubing. Although I ran out of spaghetti tubing a long time ago, I actually ended up using about 6 feet of is it 1/8 inch, 16 inch, a 16th inch shrink tubing. I have like miles and miles of white and clear, but I use the white mostly. I did, because I was, for a while before I dug out the white, I was actually using spare, you know, when I'd strip the yellow wire in a few places, I used the stripped yellow wire pieces as spaghetti tubing. Let's see if you can see it in there on those resistors. That's actually from the yellow wire strippings. Anyhow, so I'm going to go ahead and do the Bakelite block, and then from there I'm going to, I got to pull that speaker out and see what I can either straighten out that cloth or dare I clean it. I'm still kind of leaning towards cleaning it. I am a little careful, like I said. I've been having such good luck so far. Of course I haven't fired it up either, but anyhow, that's an update for now. I was pretty careful about cross-checking everything in here, and I did follow it, traced everything out, highlighted what I was replacing, making sure, you know, I had the stuff right. I mean, I could still make a mistake. I did take reference pictures as well. So well, hopefully the next update I'll have either a clean grill cloth, or at least it's straightened out, and I think in the next video will be the firing up of it. Oh, another thing is, you know, a lot of comments were made about the how clean the condenser got from soaking it in the evapor rust. And I went back on some of my pictures, and oh, you can't see. Hello, where did it go? I went back on some of my pictures, and it was, you know, these plates were pretty shiny to begin with. Of course I have it on the part that goes out is on the back side. So I'm obviously not gonna knock on the evapor rust. I mean, like I said, it made anything I soaked in it, even with the aluminum, came out clean, looking like it just came out of the box. I mean, down to, you can just see the marks now on the aluminum where it was, you know, pressed into the mold. But anyway, so I redid the, I guess I'll show you the last thing I'll show you. I redid the the ongoing issues with the cap to that transformer. So I have to apologize to the citrus strip people, because I used pure MEC on this and it still would not come off. The only way I could basically get it off was sandpaper. And then I put a couple of, then I put 2 coats of the black on there, and it still tried to flake some of the stuff up, so I let that cure for a few days and then sanded it and sprayed it again. It's a little heavier than I wanted. You can barely make out the word Philco here, but anyway, so the dirty deed is done, and we'll put that back on in a couple more days when it's a little more cured. It says give 7 days, and it's actually, I did this morning, so, but I'll tell you, if you to speed up the curing time, it sure does help to put it into a 200-degree oven for several hours, because it's pretty hard now. Anyway, thanks for watching, and ooh, it's run to over 15 minutes, so I guess what I'm going to do now is I'll just quickly put in a couple of before and after pictures, just so you guys can remember what it looked like. You know, I almost forgot. When I was pulling out the that fourth electrolytic, it dawned on me that really it was actually just in parallel with the 40. It was just separated by that one yellow wire. I guess that was kind of obvious. I don't know how I missed it, but anyhow, so you know, they just had it paralleled it, so they'd have a total of 47. Anyhow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and hopefully we won't, well, hopefully everything will still be okay. Thanks again, and I hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. Take care.